Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dusty Trails and Drone Tales. We've been on a bit of a hiatus here with a little break throughout the months of October and November, but now it's December and we're back. So today we're not on the trails making some dust or flying some drones, but today we're in the garage with our 2021 Polaris Ranger North Star crew to do some upgrades. So stay tuned and see what we got in store for you. So the first thing we're going to install today is this turn signal kit. In the States, they also call it a street legal kit because in some jurisdictions, if you add turn signals and a horn, you can drive this on roads except 4-lane highways. So this is from WD Electronics. It is all plug and play. The reason why I chose this kit is because I don't have to drill anything on the bike. A lot of the turn signal kits out there come with like 3 little LEDs you got to drill and put in your plastic on the front and all that stuff. And I don't want to drill into my machine if I don't have to. So this one is all plug and play. The front turn signals use these sequential LEDs that sandwich in between the headlights and the fascia panel. They're really cool looking. I've watched videos online of how they work. Everything all plugs into this box, and it even comes with a horn, which this is the standard horn. Sounds like a little meep horn that you hear in some of those little foreign cars. I did an upgrade to an air horn, but they still sent me the regular horn anyway. Comes with a column mounted turn signal stock. I really like the way this one mounts, as it uses the tilt steering bolt or the piston for that to hold on, because a lot of the other signal kits I've seen, they just attach with a normal worm clamp, and I didn't want that to come loose over time. And even a license plate frame. So in the back, the kit will integrate with the factory tail lights and use those for the turn signals there. So to begin, we've got to do some disassembly on the front end to be able to install these sequential turn signals. So let's get right into that. So the first thing we've got to do is take off the hood and the front fenders, and then the sequential LEDs are going to fit in here. A lot of the reason for taking these off is just simply to be able to get access to things a lot easier. So we're going to take off the hood, and that's just a quarter turn of these 2 latches. Slide it ahead. Out that comes. We'll put this over here so that I do not step on it and break it later. And then there should be a few push pins. Yes, there's one back here, one here, and the instructions do tell you all this. There's a screw here, a couple under here, and then one here, and then this will all lift out. So let's do that. Let's start with the screw. There's that one. And I've also got some of these push pin pliers, because the way these push pins work is this center comes out and then the pin pops out. So this will make life a bit easier for you. So just put it in, squeeze, pull the center, and then out pops the pin. And then there's another one. We'll pick this piece up off the floor. Put this in the pocket for safekeeping for later. There's a way this goes back together here. There. One back in here. It looks like a little bit of a bitch to get to, but no, there we are. Squeeze, pull, and then pull out the pin. Number 2. There. Open the door. One of the future upgrades on this thing is going to be a set of, I believe they're from Flatlander Off-Road, and they're a set of door struts so that the door doesn't try and close on my leg every time I go to get in. And this one's a little bit recessed, but there we go. Center out. pin out. There we go. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That is loose. And then there's just a couple in here under the wheel well. One here and one a little further ahead. Let's get our pliers back. One here. And then one right in here. Pull the center out. Drop it on the floor as always. Pull the pin out. And then this should all just lift right off. There we go. Unhook your hose for your pisser. And there you go. So yeah, the machine looks clean, but this dirt says we use it. So the next step that we need to do is to remove the instrument cluster, which is really easy to do. Just to get really good access here, we're going to tilt the steering column all the way down. And there's 2 push pins here. Now they say if you have a tilt windshield to open it, because this makes this part a lot easier. I do not, and I'm not going through the process of removing my windshield. So we're just going to squeeze in here. There's push pin number 1. Put that in the dash storage for safekeeping in a panel we're not going to remove. And then push pin number 2. A little tight squeeze with the big old meat hands here, but it'll come out. Sometimes 2 hands, and the clip goes flying. We got it. There. Then just slide the instrument cluster towards you and disconnect the connector off the back. And what we're going to do a little later is we're going to open up this connector here and add a couple of pins in that will integrate the turn signal module in with the signals in the instrument cluster. Brain fart. So we're just going to set this aside and then move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to install our first component of the system, and we're just following the instructions that came with the kit in order. We're going to install the turn signal column, turn signal stock onto the column. So all we have to do is there's a nut here on this side for the tilt mechanism. So we don't want to take the bolt out because it just mounts to the nut here. So with a 10mm wrench, and I'm just holding the head of the bolt. It's just on with a nylock nut. We're just going to loosen that. We're just going to take that nut off, leave the bolt in so that we don't have to wrestle with the hydraulic piston later. So there, we'll put the nut up here. And you may have to, the instructions do say you may have to bend this a little bit to get it over the column. Let's see how this goes. Yep, just open her up a little bit. There. Slide it on. Try not to scratch the paint here either. There. Just like that. I'm going to close that up a bit, just bend it into place. Get that nut. Start that back on. One thing I did notice when I first got this is that, I mean, the thing really does feel like a vehicle. And every time I've gone around a turn, like going through a village somewhere or a town, I've always gone and reached for the turn signals. There we go. Now we have turn signal. And we're going to route this wire under the column, hopefully. Well, actually, it says to route it under the column. There we go. You can see it, hear it, and there we go. Actually, I'm more of a fan. Not happy with that routing. I'm more of a fan of right in here because there's a lot of shit to go around to get it underneath there. And there we go. Just like that. We have a turn signal stock. The only thing you will notice is if you're a kind of person that pulls back on your tilt mechanism to tilt it, you just got to push it forward now because they are mounted in pretty close quarters, and there's even a little tab here on the turn signal switch that the little thing rests against. But other than that, there's our first component installed, one turn signal switch. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to run the power for the system. This is your power cable. Now the nice thing about Polaris is that they have this pulse bar connector system. So there is switched power here, there is constant power, and there's also ground here. So what we're going to do is we're going to power the system off of this pulse bar. I've got 4 connectors left. I've got another accessory that's going to use another one, so I'll still have 2 left after the time everything's all said and done. Actually, 2 more accessories, so I'll have 1 left if I need to, but you know, in the future you can buy splitters for these. So this plugs right in. We're going to run this through. There's a rubber grommet here. I've also taken out the center cup holders between the last step and this step, just to make life a little easier for pulling wires. So we're going to route this in through here, just red and black, positive and negative. So we'll fish that in through there. Now the instructions say do not connect it to the pulse yet. Well, that's probably a no shit Sherlock moment because nothing is hooked up and we don't want to fry any components. But when it's all said and done, we're going to use this connector right here. So we'll go into the machine and grab these 2 wires and just pull them through into the cavity under the instrument cluster where, there they are. Got to work them around the air conditioning hoses here. That came right through and into the cavity underneath. And there we go. So now we'll move on to the next step. You probably didn't see half of that on camera when I get back in because I don't have a cameraman today. But that's the whole gist of it. So now we're going to take our control module and set it into this cavity down in here after we connect the 2 power wires. And everything's already got bullet connectors on it for that. So red to red. Make sure it's in firm and that the rubber boots are over everything. Black to black. Now, because this is a unit with air conditioning, we're going to set this down in here and try not to interfere with any AC tubing. And eventually we will zip tie this to the brake pedal frame just to stop it from rattling. I mean, it doesn't need to be 100% fastened down, but we just don't want it to rattle in there. So there, that is the control module sitting in where it's going to live. So this next step is optional if you've added 4-way flashers to your system. So this is the wire that would normally connect just to the turn signal switch. Everything, all the connectors in this kit, you can't plug something in the wrong spot because it just won't fit. So that's one of the things I really like about this kit. But if you do add in the hazards, or four-way flashers, whatever you like to call it, this goes in between the two connectors. So there's one connector that goes in here, the other connector goes in there. So I've got two switch blanks left above the heater controls. I don't think I'm going to use those for the hazards. I'll use one of those for the horn for sure, because that's something I'll use quite a bit more often than hazards. The other one will be for another accessory, which we'll show you later. So I also have two switch blanks here. I'm going to pop one of these out and put the hazards here next to the headlights. So you can see that this kit comes with the Polaris style rocker switch, so it does blend in a little bit. The only thing that'll be a little different is the WD Electronics logo on the back, or on the face of it. So what you do to get one of these switch blanks out is you reach down in behind the cluster, and just, there's a couple little locking tabs on there, and then you just push it out. We'll save that for a rainy day. And then we're going to feed these through the hole, bring them up into here. And don't worry, we're going to zip tie all these wires together and install the switch to the right side up. Slide it into the hole, and it just locks in place. So we are going to connect this wire into here. Like I say, all the connectors can only go in one spot. We'll tuck that down in out of the way. We'll do a lot of zip tying later. Oops, I just connected the turn signal switch directly in as if I didn't have hazards, so we'll just pull the connector out. This is from the hazard switch into the turn signal lever. And this is the one from the control module. Just look for the little push to lock thing. There we go. Just pick up the module here, tuck all the wires in out of the way. So far this kit is pretty easy to do. So we've got our hazard lights hooked up, our column or turn signal stock hooked up. So now we will move on to the next step. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get ready to install these silicone LEDs. They're in a white silicone. You can see here that there is a groove on either side of this to allow you to install them left or right. So the first thing you've got to do to get those in is there's 3 headlight adjuster bolts that you'll need to loosen up. So what you want to do is give yourself about a 1/4 to 3/8 gap here, so that you can wedge this in between. And then what we'll do is we'll tighten these up just to hold everything in. So there's one up top here, and then there's 2 that are accessed from in the wheel well, and they are Torx heads. So all you got to do is look for the springs from above, and then you can see where they are. And I got the sun blinding me here. There's one there. Just loosen that up a bit. There. You can see the headlight moving away from the body. Now, one thing I did find, and apparently it's a common complaint about Rangers, is that the headlights are aimed chronically high. So one thing I do like about this kit is that when I go to tighten this, I'm going to tighten the top and be able to tilt my headlight down. Now, where is the third one? That should be right there. Yes. So I want to be able to turn my headlights down a bit. Basically, my low beams are in the high beam position, and my high beams are shining in the trees. So not really great when you're driving at night, and especially if you've done like I have and put LED really bright. Oh my God, I've just stared into the face of the sun LEDs into your headlights, and that's not great if you're meeting oncoming traffic. So let's try and get up in here, see if we can access it this way. Or do we already have the room we need? Well, looks like we already have the room we need. So what we want to do is fish the wire in through here for connection later. And then wedge this into your plastic there. Use that groove. Oh. So we might actually have a little bit too much room now between the headlight and the body. There we go. There, that one's in. That one's just falling through. So it does take a little bit of finessing, especially if you got too much space like I do right now. But once we tighten that up, that'll all stay in place. Remember, this ain't real TV, folks, so I am not a professional in any way, shape, or form. I just follow instructions like everybody else. So, and if you don't follow instructions, well, good on you. So now I'm just going to hold this in place while I go back under. And tighten this headlight back up. Because I have way too much space now. And there is a big caution in the kit to not tighten it up too much, because you could end up crushing the LED strip, which you do not want to do. Just going to loosen that a little touch again to get that in just the right spot. There, we'll hold that with my fingers this time. And sometimes it's all just in how you hold your tongue. There, that's snugged up. We'll snug up this one as well. There. And those are in. So now we're just going to rinse and repeat on the other side. So we've rinsed and repeated, and now the silicone LED strips are in there on both sides. It is a little tricky getting them in there to stay when everything is loose. So my suggestion is tuck in this side and tighten the screw here on the back side, and then tuck in this and then tighten. There's another screw here on the back side as well. That seemed to be the way I got them in the best, because if I tried just tucking them in the whole way and then tightening down the screws, it just wanted to pop right out. So now what we've got to do, now that the signals are in, is we have to install the ballasts for the sequential turns in the front. So there's a 4-pin connector here that just plugs into the control module. And then these 2 wires here will fish out through the grommet into the engine bay, or under the hood, I should say. The engine's in the back. And connect. These are labeled driver's side, and the other one is not labeled, so obviously that would be the passenger side. And then what we'll eventually end up doing is taking some 2-sided tape and just sticking these on the top of the control module if we have room to put the instrument cluster back in. So once again, all the connectors can only go into one place. So we're going to plug this into the control module. It's clicked and locked. I've already got one of these unwound here. I'm going to feed it through past the AC lines, or through in between the gap in the AC lines. And I hope I'm tangled in the steering wheel. Again, people, I am not a professional. So, you can choose to follow my advice if you like, or you can march to the beat of your own drum, whichever works for you. There's one through. We'll untie the other one. Floor makes a great garbage can when you're doing this shit. And we'll feed this one through the same way. Pull that ballast in. Pull the other one. That ballast is in. Other wire. There's a metal plate here too, so if the ballasts do reach, I might just fasten them to that as well. But we'll decide on final homes for everything once all the kit is installed. So we'll just pull this one in as well. There. And then out through and into under the hood. Through the same hole. Now I did notice, even though we were in hiatus, I did have the machine out a couple of times in the cold weather. Just some local touring around. Nothing groundbreaking. And I did notice I've got a draft coming from behind the dash. And I did have a sound bar installed in this before I picked it up. So I think they cut the hole in the grommet a little bigger. So I think that is the cause of my draft. So once this is all done, I'm just going to go under there with something to seal it up and see if I can reduce that draft. There, that is poked through. So now what we'll do is we'll go and connect those to the signals. So now we've got these wires through. I'm just going to pull them a little further into the underhood compartment here. They do give you lots of wire. I will say that about the kit. Just want to double check something inside here. Oh, I ended up pulling my passenger side one out somehow. So I'm going to pop that back through. Must have done that when I got out. There, that's the passenger side one. So we're going to pull this out as well. Seemed to be stuck on something in there, hooked in something. Yep, wrapped around the battery tender port. there. Pulled in nice and tight. So this one has no marking on it. So we're going to route this under all of these. Like I say, lots of wire here. There's no shortage of it. Maybe route that in, tuck it in between the body there. And then we'll zip tie up the, actually we're going to pop this down in here. And then what we'll do later is once everything's installed, tested, and working, is this factory wire here. This is the winch one. I'll just zip tie the excess to that. Now these connectors can only go in one way and they're keyed. So what you want to do is just line up the keyway, plug them in. And screw them together for a nice, tight, waterproof connection. And with the one for the driver's side, we'll come on this side. Oh, we got a little more there that we had wrapped around the engine air intake. Get this out of the way. Route this down in under here. Line up the keyways, connect them, and screw them together. And again, there's a couple of factory relays here. So what I'll do is I'll bundle up all this wire here. And then just zip tie it to this set of wiring here and tuck that underneath the air conditioning intake. But all in all, that's the front all connected. So now we'll move on to the next step. So now what we need to do to integrate the factory tail lights into the turn signal system is install this adapter harness. Again, everything is all plug and play. So what we have to do is separate this factory connector and insert this T. So we will have inputs here from the control module for left and right and ground. And this, remember how I said earlier we had a lighted license plate frame? This will power that. So all we've got to do is separate this factory connector. So push down on the locking pin, pull it apart. And connectors can only go in this one way, which is really great about this kit. Install that. There's a click and a lock. Install that. There's a click and a lock. Just tuck that down in into the way. And if we have to later, we'll zip tie that down so that it doesn't hit the bed, but there's a recess here in the bed so that when it does come down, it's not going to make contact anyway. It doesn't look like. So I think we're good to go there. So now what we'll have to do now is move on to some disassembly inside to get access to run the wiring from here all the way up to the control module. So let's do that now. So now what we need to do is come in here and remove the center tunnel here. All the wires are going to run along the HVAC lines and the air intake tubes for the engine and the belt housing or the belt intake. So these are all held in with push pins. So I believe there's a couple on the back side here as well. So we'll remove this storage tray right in where the battery is. Set that aside. And take our push pin pliers. Can't really see right down in there. So we'll get these ones here on the floor first that are easy to get to. There's 1, 2, 3 on this side. Just hang on, we're going to get some light here. Always helpful to shed a little light on the subject, right? There we go. So, push pin number 2. Just get right in under there. Push pin number 2's got a little bit of a hard time wanting to come out. Oh, it helps if I grab it from the right angle. There. Oh, and there's one coming up the side here. These push pin pliers are great for doing this. Really makes life a lot easier. Except this one's a little extra tight for some reason. There we go. Now down in here, there are supposed to be 2 push pins. Let's see what we got. Okay, that one looks like it's been removed. So perhaps this has been out before. That one's been removed as well. Okay. Yes. So we are down 2 push pins. So we're going to rinse and repeat on the other side here, and we'll pick this back up once we get the pins out and show you what's underneath here, all this mess. So now we've got all our push pins out, so we can just pick up on the cup holder here and disconnect our cigarette lighter wires. Lift this out and set it aside so I don't step on it again like we did everything else. And so what we'll do is, not sure how well you can see it, but the wires will lay on top of this one here and just follow all the way up to the front, or maybe even run them along the side here where there's a little bit more room, zip tie it there. But it's gonna, this will run through into here without any problem, and then we can go out all the way into the engine compartment there. So again, we're going to rinse and repeat in the front. The only difference with the front is I've got the tubes, the one tube to disconnect for the air conditioning line, but it's basically the same idea. Pull out the pins, pull the tunnel off, and get it out of the way. So now what we're going to do is we are going to run the harness to the back. So this 3-pin connector here will run up and plug into our module up under the dash here. And then there are 3 pins that go to the back. So that is going to follow down. What I've also done is I took out the AC recirculate filter cover to give me some room to grab some wires and pull them out into here. And I also took out the switch panel. A couple of reasons for that is, number one, I can feed the wires down, grab them through a little better with it out of the way. And number two, this is going to be much easier to put our horn switch in later. So what we're going to do right now is hopefully not tangle the wires. Now this kit, the good thing about it is you don't have to specify if you're a crew or a regular cab. They have one kit that does it all. They include plenty of wire to do the crew cab. So, you know, you don't have to worry about making a mistake when you're ordering. And again, we're going to plug this into the 3-pin connector here on the control module. And super easy. It's the only one there. They all only go in one spot. So we're going to pop that in there. And we've got a click. And we're going to take the wiring and run it from front to back, because I don't want to get dirt and shit into the connector. So we're just going to feed it through here, not get stuck in the steering wheel or anything like that. Follow the same path we did with everything else. Normally I would have taken this cup holder and set it aside and just gotten it out of my way completely, but I installed intermittent wipers in this, and it's hardwired in with no connector. At some point, someday, I will put a connector in so that I can just do a quick disconnect on the cup holders themselves to get them out of the way. But it's not like I open this every day, so it really hasn't been at the top of the priority list. But there, I've grabbed the wires from the other side. Now here's the intermittent wiper controller that I used. They were very common in the late 70s and early to mid 80s in a lot of cars that didn't have intermittent wipers from factory. It was a popular aftermarket add-on. They're getting much harder to find now. I've had that one sitting on my shelf now for a few years. I was going to use it in a different car, or in a car, I should say, at one point. I never got around to using it. And one day I was out with this in the mist, and I was constantly here, bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop, bleep, bloop, hitting the wiper switch because it wasn't raining very hard. Like I say, it was just a mist. So I thought, well, let's see if I can figure out how to make this work. And I did. And I use it quite a bit now. It works great. Even though it is old 1980s technology, sometimes you can't beat that stuff. So there, fish that down in behind the AC hose, or the dash hose. Heat and AC all come out of the same ducts in this thing. And then we're going to drop it down. In behind the dash panel here. Make sure we come out the right way. There. The great thing about this kit is you can hide all the wires, and everything is going to have a close to stock appearance when it's done. The only difference you're going to notice is the turn signal switch in the dash. And that's about it. Oh, and the LED strips on the front lights, but for most people passing by that wouldn't know if it's supposed to be like that or not, they would never even notice. So there. Get that down through. Now, another great thing about this kit is it comes with tons of zip ties for wire management when you're done and bundling wires back up. So probably what I'll do is once I get all the accessories run that I want to run, I've got some more wiring to go to the back. I'm probably just all going to zip tie it to this right here. That's pretty solid, and that'll just keep things from flopping around. But for now, we're going to pass this through right into that rear compartment. And another thing you don't need to worry about is the drive shaft. It's all out of the way here, so we don't have to worry about that getting done. So we'll go out back here now and finish running that through to the back. And then once we get underneath to the engine bay, we'll pick it back up. I'll bring it back online and show you how that connects. Okay, so we're back in the back here again and about to make our 3 connections. Now, this one is where things do get a little bit different, in that in the adapter harness, there is no color coding here, so there is a chance we could potentially get the wires reversed. There are 2 male connectors coming from the harness in the front and 2 females. So it is hard to mix those up. So we're just going to Slide the plastic back over the connectors here. Now, one thing we can do when we test it is if we have, oh, the picture wasn't very clear, but if I lay these wires out like this, actually it's three, yeah. The picture wasn't clear, but if I lay this out like this, it looked to be, okay, this connector can only go to this one. There. And then looked like white was in the middle in the picture. It's got two male connectors and one female connector, and then black. Now, if when we test this, according to the instructions, our signals are flashing in the opposite directions, we can just reverse these white and black wires. The red wire here only goes into one connector because that was the odd one out. So our turn signals are all connected. The next step, according to the instructions, would be to install the horn. But I think what we're going to do right now is plug it in and see if we have turn signals and hazards. So now all our connections are made. Everything that's left to connect is the horn for the kit. That's a standalone option that doesn't need to be connected, doesn't need to interface with the control module. And the license plate light is also an optional feature that you do not have to connect to make the system functional. I'm going to do it because my license plate is in a bad spot. It's tucked in behind the bumper. So we're going to fire this thing up right now. I'm not going to start the engine or anything. And just see if everything comes to life. So key on. Oh, one of the things I also didn't realize about this kit is it also has daytime running lights as well, which is cool. I thought I'd read that somewhere, and then when I ordered it, I forgot whether it did or not. So let's try the left turn. Great. Daylight come back, yes. Right turn. Perfect. Flip on the hazard lights. And we have hazards. So let's check out let's reposition the camera and check out the back. Okay, now we're going to do a test on the rear. So left turn signal. Oh, look at that, I didn't screw it up either. Right turn signal. Let's see what happens when we put the brakes on. Brake light comes on, signal still flashes, which is great. Let's turn on the hazards. Brakes are on, brakes are off. Hazards work. All right, everything looks like it's functioning as designed. So now we'll move on to installing the horn. Okay, so now we're ready to move along to the horn. And I'm just going to temporarily hook it up under the hood here. I've got the switch in my hand. It came already pre-wired, but what we're going to do to fish the wires back through is we're going to take a picture of the connections on the horn switch just to make sure we got them right. And then we're going to plug this into the pulse bar. It's already got a pre-wired relay, which we're going to put like right here with the other factory relays, and plug it into the pulse bar, which, oh, that's a short little connector, so we may end up just mounting the relay like right here with a screw. But for now, we're going to pull a pulse bar connector blank and plug that in. Oh, actually, there's another adapter harness that goes into the pulse bar. Okay, let's get that other harness out. Again, I'm not a professional here. I'm just sort of, kind of following instructions. So let's get our pulse bar connector out of the box here. That looks a little better. To plug into the horn harness. That looks a little more appropriately sized. And then the end of the harness for the horn. Right here. Let's see if this has power all the time. And this is the air horn. Oh, we need to hook up the horn. Again, still not a professional, people. So we got 2 connections on the other side here. Positive there. Negative there. Now what we're going to do is, this is where the screw went in to hold the plastics from the top. So it came with a simple little bracket. We're just going to screw it on there. When we put the hood back on, we'll put the screw back down through it. And this way here, the outlet for the horn will be facing down so that it doesn't fill up with water. So let's get this positive connection, or this ground connection on. Now it sort of looks like this is wired to be live all the time, but I'm not sure. So we'll find out if the key needs to be on or not. Yeah, only active when the key is on. I think. So let's try turning on the key. There we go. The horn light is on the switch now. That's a pretty loud horn. Okay, cool. Now let's just, for shits and giggles, hook up the horn that comes with the kit, just to see what that sounds like. And do I want to get adventurous and wire them both up at the same time? Decisions. So let's undo these connections here. And negative, positive, that is loud. The air horn is definitely louder. Huh. I might wire them both in. I have them. Might as well, right? Let me think on that one for a little bit, and we'll get back to you. Okay. So I've thought about it, and we're going to go with just the one horn, even though I could run a wire from this horn and go over to that one real easy and have them both. But right now what I want to do is make a final adjustment on the horn bracket and position here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to temporarily cinch this down here, like so. So I don't really want to block this pulse bar connector here either, in case I need it. So I think that's a good position there. The air intake is pointing down, so we'll just flip this out here. I can still get good access to my washer fluid tank. And there we go. She's tight. Just like that. I think that's a good spot for it. And it's pretty loud, so I think you're going to hear it no matter what. So let's move on to the next step here in a second, once I figure out what the hell that is. So our next step here is going to run our wires inside the cab for the horn. And I left my phone in the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark with some masking tape what wire color goes where. This one's a brown one. And of course my pen doesn't work, but we'll go by scratches in the masking tape. And on this side, this is yellow. And this is green. Okay, that's that marked. I can disconnect these now. Know where they go. We're going to set this inside. Right there. And then route these wires in amongst the wiring jungle here, and back through the grommet. And don't forget, we're going to do some wire management later. I may not bore you with those details. Everybody's got a little bit different approach to how they manage wires. Some people tape them all up, some people zip tie them. Actually, I want to pull that out and go underneath this large cable here. Probably still going to mount this relay here later. For now, we're just going to get these wires into the cab. Grommet's filling up, which is not a bad thing. We'll fix that up later as part of the wire management process. There, we are fed inside. So now what we'll do is go inside and install our switch in the dash. Okay, so now we are back in the cab. I've got the wires poked through here, and I'm going to run them behind this ductwork here, and then down into the switch bank here, and I'm going to pop out a switch blank. So we won't be needing that. And then run the wires through the hole and connect them to where I marked them with the tape. So the brown is B right there. Yellow there. Green there. And then put the switch right side up and pop it in. Now let's see if we have a, nope, we're not going to have a horn because I unhooked it. I was going to test it, but I think we're going to be good there. All right, so I think the last part of this kit is to, oh yes, open the instrument cluster wiring harness, so that when we turn our turn signals on, we will have indicators in the dash. Now, this kit also comes with LED indicators if you so choose, but again, I don't want to drill holes into something I don't have to. Now, there are issues with some Polaris models and the cluster indicators not working. I'm hoping I'm not one of them. But yeah, we're going to open up that wiring harness and fish it out of here, wherever the hell that fell to, and open it up and insert a couple of pins that'll connect into the control module and fire our indicators. So I'm going to fish that out of here, wherever the hell that fell to, and we're going to come back in a moment. Okay, we've got our connector back, and so what we've got to do is insert these two pins into slots 6 and 7 in this connector. So I've opened a pulse bar connector before to repin it. So this shouldn't be that bad. So first off, we got to separate the two gray halves. And I've got a small screwdriver here to do that. There's one. There's two. So we get that open. Then let's see here. Pin 6 and 7 are the two I need. Not sure if you can see this, but there are two little connectors in there. So we've got to pull those out. I've got a small little screwdriver here. They're just little rubber tittins that go in here. There's one. Floor that. There's two. Now, we're supposed to slide this off, which apparently is easier said than done. There's one side disconnected. So you just push in on the little connectors, the locking connectors here on the inside. There. And drop that on the floor, of course. So one thing we want to do now, or the thing we want to do now, is, according to the instructions, I'm going to put this back in there. The black wire goes into the 6-pin, and the red goes into the 7-pin. And when we push them through, we need to make sure that they are even with all the other pins in here. So there's the first one coming through now. Second one. There. They're in. And they're even. So that's how you want them to look. Then we're going to get the gray plastic shield piece that we dropped on the floor here. Pop that back on, because this locks everything back in. And this can only go on one way, because it's grooved. There. Bring these wires out the side with everything else. Snap your cover back together. Maybe. There. Snap your cover back together, then you should be in business. There's one side. There's the other side. And then when we connect our cluster back up, the command module should send a signal to the instrument cluster to fire the signal lights in the cluster. Okay. So that's in. We just have to connect this to the cluster, or to the 4-pin connector, I believe, right here. Is that the one? Yes. It's in. Hopefully we didn't kill anybody. And I'm going to route this up over top of this. Then we're going to go grab our instrument cluster, plug it back in, and then we'll do a little test in a second here. Okay, I'm back with our instrument cluster. Let's tilt this wheel down so I can just get it out of the way. Plug it back in. Like so. There. Now, we have a cluster working. Left turn signal. Right turn signal. Then we'll have to reset our clock, of course, because we had the cluster unplugged, but that's pretty much it, except for the lighted license plate light that comes with this kit. So let's move to the back and get that done. Oh, wait, hang on. Let's try the hazard lights. Yep, it all works. Okay, so here's where we're at. I was going to install the license plate frame, because that's really the next step, which actually should have happened before instrument cluster according to the instructions, but whatever, it was an option anyway. I test fit a New Brunswick plate into the frame, and American plates are a different size than Canadian plates on ATVs and UTVs. So we're going to leave that option out. I'm just going to tape up those wires in the back just so that they don't make contact with anything when I'm doing some wire cleanup. But we're going to forego the wire or the license plate light at this time. So what we'll do now is at least get the plastics back together on the front end here so we can wrap up that part of the installation, get our horn in its final location, and we're not going to put the interior back together yet because I still have 2 more electrical accessories that need power from front to back. 1 more actually from front to back. We'll do that one next, and then we can close up the interior and then concentrate on the back side of things. So all in all, we'll get this plastic back together, get our horn hooked up, and then we'll do the wiring management later. So let's get our plastics together here. There's our horn wires. And of course, I set it out of the way. So let's get our horn hooked up. And positive there, negative there. I don't really want to do any wire cleanup until everything is all happy and in its home inside. So I might be able to pull some of this back through or shove some of it back in as need be. So let's start with our passenger side plastic, because that's the one that's also going to hold the horn in. So let's fit this into place here. There. Let's get our horn tucked up in underneath. Okay. So we're going to have to bend this bracket down just a little bit to push the horn down, because it is pushing the hood up. Actually, it is the stud for the horn. We may need to rethink the horn mounting here. Let's see if we push it down even more. No, that's actually making it come up worse. So let's straighten that back out. Put a couple of bends in there to push it down. Push it down and then bend it here slightly. And that should get us down to where we need to be, hopefully. There. Get that horn hole lined up right there. Good. Just a few little bends in the bracket. I think we're good. So we'll grab our screw gun over here. Find a screw down deep in the pocket. Or just take them all out. There's a screw. Grab the horn. Get that lined up with the hole. Hold your tongue just right. Get the screw started by hand. Because we're just going into plastic, we don't want to reef onto that too much. I'm going to push that way a little bit. Push that down. There. Get a push pin in here where that belongs. Push this back a little bit. So we might need to do a little bit more alignment there. Push pin, put the center in, get it in the right orientation. Come on, it's a push pin, shouldn't be this hard, right? But these do have a keyway on them, or a tab, for a certain way that they go. I'll be dipped. That one's not happy. Let's make sure we get this going the right way here. There we go. There. Key is to have it almost all the way out to start. This one might just need a little love tap. Let's find a love tapper, shall we? Should have all kinds of those in here. Just don't want to tap it too hard. I just want to get it started. And then it should pop right in. Okay, so that one does not want to go in. Let's pause here and see what we've got going on that is not making that happy. Okay, so we figured out what I was doing wrong there. There's a lip here that the plastic needs to lock into that I didn't have it locked into. So it was just an alignment issue. Put the one back in here by the door. Easy peasy. Everybody's all lined up and happy there. Get another one of these for right here. That's in and happy. I also, to do that, I loosened this screw to get that to snap in. Just going to tighten that back down before I forget. There, we've got a horn in there. Should be another one that goes. I think it was in from the back side here. Got 1, 2, 3. Ah, yes, from the back side here. 4. That one's happy. And grab some light because it's getting darker in the garage here now as the day goes on. And see number 5 up in the wheel well. There, that's one side down. This side should go a little easier because we don't have the horn to contend with. So we will hook up our pisser hose again. Slide this in from the front. Make sure these all connect in nice. Beautiful. Push pin in here. One. Get these assembled again. Oh, this is supposed to slide in here like so and line up that way. Two. Get one in under here. Three. Let's pull that other one back out, because that did not make it happy. Again, not a professional here. Don't work for Polaris, don't work on the assembly line. I'm sure there's a correct sequence to getting these back on. Like I say, don't work for the factory, so if I've got something slightly out of order, don't shoot me. There, we'll pull that pin back out. Get this to line up the way it should. I have to pull this one out in by the door again. This one was a little bit sneaky to get on the first time. This one's going to get the little screwdriver treatment. There we go. And of course, the center went underneath the machine. We'll get that in a minute. I'd like to just get this plastic lined up a little better first. Looks like it goes in this way, then that way. There we go. Take a fresh pin. At least we'll use this one without the center for now, just to hold the place. Get that one in. We've got one that goes in from here. That one's in and happy. Get our screw back in up here, because that just came in my hand. There. Got another pin here. To go up in here. Just like that. And pin center here. And that's it. So let's take a look and see how this all looks with somewhat of the plastics back assembled. Turn signal. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. Looks like it should be there. And let's try our horn to make sure we hook that up properly. We have a horn. So we're going to continue on now, and we're going to move on to our next accessory because I'm still going to need to get power from the pulse bar here under the hood. Like I say, we'll clean up wires later once everything's installed, and we can tie things to each other. But for now, yeah, we're making our way through. Okay, so next up, we are going to jump to our next accessory. This one also needs power run from the front to the back, so I'd like to get that all done and out of the way before I move on to another one. That way there I can start putting the interior back together and finish buttoning up under the hood. And in case you can't tell by the size of the box, the next accessory is 4-foot whips. Or as my loving wife loves to call them, pretty princess lights. So, I don't know. It's more of a novelty thing than anything. What we're going to do is, I was looking at this the other day as to how I'm going to install it. You've got lock and ride holes here up in the top of the box. And I looked at the bottom of the bed to see if I could drop the wires down through, because I initially wanted to put them here in the furthest one back and run the wire down through the stake pocket here, but can't do that because it's all closed in on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to mount it one back from the back and run the wire over along the top here, down here, because this one's actually open at the bottom. And to do that, again, in keeping with the no drill theme, I picked these up on Amazon from Rough Country, and they are lock and ride whip mounts, which basically just drop into the lock and ride holes here. Then you tighten this bolt down, and that's it. You mount your whip base to it. Get this down in there a little bit more so it sits nice and flush with the top of the bed. On the other side, space is a bit of a premium because of this big chest. So we're also going to be getting rid of that and installing some more interior storage just to get rid of that and have more bed space. And then this Rotopax tank, the mount is just going to bolt to the side of the box, or maybe even the front of the box. Then I'll still have pretty much my full bed if I ever wanted to haul something back here. So first mount is dropped in the hole. Let's get it, see if grab the little love tapper again. Grab that. And just tap that down nice and flush. And then make sure we're perpendicular there, which we are. Then, hopefully I got the right socket on here. I've got another socket here. And we're just going to cinch this down. Oh, look at that. I had the right socket for it. I tell you, these beds make great workbenches as well. So we're just going to tighten this down. That's nice and tight. That is not popping back out. Give it a couple more ugga-duggas just for good measure. We like ugga-duggas around here. Then on the passenger side, we're going to do a little rinse and repeat. Give that a little love tap with the Tanya Harding 3000. There, we're flush. cinch it down. And there. We have two whip light mounts secured. Now this kit here was a gift from my loving wife for Christmas. Again, not sure really if it's a novelty or not, but one thing I did like about this kit is it comes with the spring basis, so that if you're going underneath trees, the whips will have the ability to bend. So really all you do here is just drop this in through the hole in the bracket. Let's move you guys so you can see what the hell I'm doing. Or at least make it look like I know what I'm doing anyway, right? This one's going to be a pretty, hopefully, quick and simple install. We're going to power these off of keyed power off the Polaris pulse bar under the hood. So, washer, lock washer, this also came with some flags, Canadian flags, American flags. Not going to fly the flags. There. Of course, we'll have to tighten that down. So I'm going to grab the other mount here. Find a socket. In this garage, it's sometimes easier said than done. We will find one. 13/16. All I can find right now is a spark plug socket, but that's not going to make a difference. A socket to socket. Swap that out. Tight. And then you quick connect your whip. Pull up on the retaining ring. Drop it down. Give it a little twist to make sure it locks in, and then we're going to drop this wire down into there. Actually, this wire is not going to drop down into there. We're going to fish a wire up from the bottom, and then rinse and repeat on the other side. Get everything wired in. Oh yeah, they've got some good bend to them. That way there, if we hit anything or go out the garage door, it's just going to boing. Stop that, because I said so. Okay, so I'm going to run a wire from the pulse bar to the switch next, get that done, and I'll show you guys that here in a second. Then get the power run to the back to the controller, and then it does come with this controller here. It's a super, super easy installation. This kit, you can use Bluetooth or remote control that comes with it. I do want to run these on keyed power. These also have an input, if we really wanted to get fancy, for backup lights, brake lights, and left and right turn signals. We're not going to do that, so we're just going to tape that up. We're going to find out where this harness will end up. I'm probably going to end up just two-sided taping it onto the top of the gas tank, and or thereabouts. We'll see how far it goes, but we'll find a spot inside to keep this going. But yeah, so let's get some power, run back to the controller. We'll position the controller and see what happens next. So I've got both whips installed in the back. The mounts are in, the whips are on, all that good stuff. So the first thing I want to do now is run power to my switch, which is eventually going to run power back to the controller. What it's also going to do is use another pulse bar connector here. That'll be the last one I'm going to use for the day, because I do have one more electrical accessory, but it does not run off the pulse bar. This would have been a great time to leave the hood off there. Save that for a rainy day. I bought a 5-pack of these pulse bar connectors on Amazon. They were like 20 bucks. I think a pack of 3 was like 12. So might as well get 3 extra just in case, so we have them. So the yellow wire is the ground, the blue is the keyed power, and the red is constant power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the red back at some point a little short and tape it to the blue wire, just so it doesn't, accidentally ground out on something. For wire, I went to Walmart in Calais last Tuesday, Boxing Day, Wednesday, I don't know. And just bought, I wanted to run 2-conductor wire. They didn't have any nice 2-conductor wire, so all I did was bought a 40-foot roll of trailer wire for signals and taillights and stuff, and I split it down into 2-conductor. So basically I've got like 80 feet of wire for 15 bucks. So what I'm going to do is, first thing, I'm going to run power to the switch. I don't know how long of a length of wire I need, so I'm going to run this in back through the grommet into the cab, following the path of everything else, which is not the path of least resistance, but it is a path. There. And then put it in through the hole. Like I say, at some point I'm just going to get some rubber tape and cover this over too once all the wiring is installed there. So now we're going to go inside the cab and wire up that switch. The way I've got it hooked up now is that anytime that the key is on, the indicator light's going to be on, and then you flip the switch, and then it'll send power back to the controller. So that way there you can see it at night or what have you. But yeah, the switch came in the kit. Actually, the kit came with everything except the pulse bar connectors and the mounts. And really, pulse bar connectors are good things to have on hand anyway. But yeah, I don't want to waste any wire. It is Saturday afternoon now. Everything here in the area is pretty much closed for the day. So I just want to make sure I cut only what I need. So I'll go back, grab the switch, and then I'll join you again inside when I put power to the switch. Okay, so we're back in the cab here, and I can see where my wire has poked through, so I'm just going to pull it through all the way. Now, on the pulse bar connector, we know that yellow is ground. So I've already looked up in the manual how to wire up this switch, whether I want the switch to be on all the time, or the backlight of the switch to be on all the time, or just on with the key. I wanted it on with just the key. Actually, the other option was only backlit when the switch is turned on. I do want to be able to see it at night. My other switches are illuminated, so that's good. So this is already connected with all the jumpers that came with it. I've already marked what goes where. This is going to be the positive lead back to the whips, or the whip controller. This is the battery feed, and this is the ground. Now the ground is going to come off the pulse bar, and then I'm also going to connect another wire into that to run it back to the controller. So we're just going to split this off here. So that I get a little bit room to work. Poke myself there a little bit with the knife. Knew that was going to happen. So we're going to split this off here. There. Had a little damage on the end here, so we're just going to split this clean. Cut off the ends. And then we're going to strip it. So I'm going to use green for battery positive. Now these are an old set of wire strippers. I think you can still get them. I've seen them at Princess Auto, but they're really super easy to use. Put your wire in there. That's it. Done. So I'm going to run and grab a a female spade connector and crimp that on and cover it with a bit of heat shrink. Because I'm not a fan of just leaving those open. I wanted to get heat shrink connectors, and I did get the butt connectors heat shrink, but I could not find regular heat shrink connectors like the spades and things like that. So, you know, when you're out and about and that's all you can get, that's all you can get. Let's just find a piece that'll fit there. That looks good. Heat shrink. And a lighter. And a crimp tool. Crimp tool is part of my other set of wire cutters that I don't really like. But we're just going to crimp and heat shrink on the battery lead connector for now, because what I'm also going to have to do is I'm going to have to include, once I get my wire cut to length, the ground to go back to the whip light controller. So we're just going to strip that, slide this spade terminal on. Stick that into the crimper and give her a little hell. Does that one fit a little better? There we go. Give her a little hell. Slide this up and over. And then we're going to heat shrink this on. Heat gun probably would have been a better choice here, because this lighter's probably close to freaking empty with my luck. Oh, it's still got fluid. Yeah, we're going to heat shrink this on. The hell? Let's see if we can find a Bic somewhere, shall we? These stick lighters are good when they work. But I believe the Bic ones are better for doing this shit. I always keep one of those in the toolbox. I know, I should have all my shit together before I even start, but remember what I said about not being a professional? All right, so we're going to heat shrink this. There we go. Just to get that nicely sealed. Et voila. We are sealed up there. Pop that in there. Now I'm just going to spade terminal this one on here now. Oh, that's a little hot. We're just going to give that a second to cool. So in the meantime, let's pop out our switch blank. Pop in our switch. Right side up. Interesting. Well, that sure as fuck ain't made to fit a Polaris. So we'll deal with that later. That might mean purchasing a new switch or Yeah, because the center does not seem to pop out of these, or does it? No. So that's okay. That will be a to-do list for later. Just want to get the switch in position here, and we'll deal with that later. There we go. Pull this back through. Just get this set in here for now. I'm not going to put any pins in or anything like that right just yet. There. Tuck the wires up in where they belong. There, and then we're going to go under the hood and pull that back through, and then we'll end up hooking up our pulse bar here in a minute. Okay, so I've got the instrument panel switch bank all loosely fit back in the dash, and I pulled this wire back through just to give me a little bit of an idea of how much wire I need. I'm just going to not plug this in, just set it in loosely. So it's like I say, I don't want a ton of extra wire, but if I do have to pull that switch out, I still want to have a little bit of slack. So I'm going to cut it right about there or so. There. And then, like I said, we're going to cut this back just in case, at some point in the future, I decide that, I do want to be able to use them with the key off. I don't know, for emergency purposes or some bullshit like that. But I'm going to wrap this in here. Like I say, blue is the keyed power that we're going to tie into our green wire. And in keeping with the theme of the machine, yellow is going to be our ground, even though the one for the horn kit uses brown as ground. But, we're going to be a little all over the place, but at the end of the day, it's not terrible. As long as somebody knows what's going on somewhere. So you basically want to strip off about 3/4 of an inch of this, 3/4 of an inch of that. Twist it up. Now I did find some heat shrink butts. So we're going to stick that in. And give that a little crimp on that side. There. Grab another one of these. Twist that on. Give her a crimp. Then strip this off. Yes, I know my blade is broken backwards. Let's peel those off. And a little stripe, about 3/4 of an inch. And this trailer wire stuff is fine. All these accessories are LED, so I'm not really worried about high loads. So we're gonna just feed this, twist this a little better. Feed that in. crimpy. Go into that one, which is our power. Missed the mark a little bit. There. Like I say, I was able to find heat shrink butts. Get out the trusty bic and seal this up. There we go. One down. One to go. There. Now I'm not going to plug this in just yet. We're going to wait until we have all the connections made as they need to be. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back into the machine and with our roll of wire, tie the two grounds together, put a terminal on that, connect that to the switch. I've got enough slack here, I can pull the switch out now, so I can probably put the pins back in the dash for that. Put the cup holders back in because we're pretty much done there. And start moving towards the back and getting these whips tied in. So I've dropped the switch cover again, pulled the switch out. So now I did run some wire up in behind the dash and pulled this back through. Now this is going to be the feed that goes to the back. So again, I do have to tie the two grounds together before I plug those into the switch. And of course, I did not bring tools, nor did I bring heat tape or heat shrink. So another doobie of that. And another spade connector, or female connector, I should say. There. Now we already know that we are going to have to swap out the whip light switch at some point for the proper Polaris L style. So we're just going to peel these off into two again. Blue is going to be our switched power. So we're going to strip back some yellow. Strip back the yellow. Strip back the yellow. Now this is going to feed our ground for the whip light controller. And once we get the connectors on there, we can tie those into the switch. So I need to run my heat shrink first over the connector. Heat shrink's a little long, but I can still get my female terminal on there. Then we're going to give that a crimp. With the crimp tool. And I did bring my lighter this time. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to heat shrink this on just to make sure that everything's nicely sealed. Extra insulation on wiring has never hurt because, let's face it, I need to get a number of years out of this machine, and having it combust is not a great way to do that. So we're just heat shrinking this together for extra insulation. And then that is going to form our power feed to the back. This is going to be our whip light power. So we're going to connect this ground here. And then we're going to put another terminal on. We're going to peel this back, lather, rinse, repeat. Put a connector on there. And if I was smart, I would have brought one of those and another piece of heat shrink, but I did not. So another one of these. Oh yeah, these assorted connector kits that you buy. There isn't a lot of shit in here, I can tell you that. I have seen on some other YouTube things that I do watch, because let's admit it, I'm not just a creator, I'm a follower, that there's a company out there called Solder Stick that makes a heat shrink and solder connector that'll work with just a heat gun. So one of these days I am going to invest in one of those kits. So again, little stripe, about 3/4 of an inch. Slide on our heat shrink. Put our connector on. Give it a crimp. And heat shrink once again. That was the seat, not me, if you did hear that. Heat shrink this on. Just a little more. There. Now we've got wire going towards the back that we haven't tied in yet. So what we'll do is connect this up. Yes, that's hot. There. Pull these wires back out through. So I pretty much pulled my pulse bar connector into the cab. And then we're going to put the switch bezel back in, and then we'll move on to running wires out to the back and getting our controller situated. So now I've got my cup holders reinstalled and my switches back in place. I'm going to look for another Polaris style lighted whip or light bar switch for these, one that actually fits in the dash cavity, but I've got it set in place for now. So now what we're going to do, so I can determine where we're going to meet in the middle inside the machine, is we're going to raise the bed here. And then grab the controller and wires. And we're going to fish these up through the bed. and into the whip lights. And again, they can only connect one way. So they are marked left and right, which is good. So I might have to come along some wires here. Let's start with this side. Probably go under the frame so that we don't get scissored on it when the bed is closed. And I know that sounded wrong. So this is the feed for the left or the driver's side. And I'll zip tie this later when we do some cable management. There is a spot here. I can just bring it along. And I also want to leave myself some slack for when I have to take them off. So if I'm storing outside under a cover, that would be ideal. So we're just going to fish this along here. No, we don't want to wrap the frame. We want to follow the frame. Like I say, we'll cable manage later. Get everything zip tied up so it's not hitting exhaust or anything like that. But basically, I am running along underneath the frame there. Let's grab a little seat here. And there's a little space where you can just sort of, sorry about that last little cutoff there. So yes, I'm going to zip tie this here to the bed rail, and we'll zip tie it to the frame. But yeah, my camera just cut off there momentarily because I sat on my camera remote. So there, hopefully this will come up through into the pocket. Actually, we're going to wrap that with a little bit of electrical tape because this does not want to stay. Okay, that looks like a screw-on connector there, which is fine. So we're going to wrap this with a little bit of electrical tape. Wherever I put that. Probably still under the hood. It is. Because yes, this little jigger doesn't want to follow suit and play nice today. So you can see I'm just kind of haphazardly routed along the frame. That's the right side. Someday we may tie this in with the turn signals, but for now we are not. We're just going to tape this together, and it'll keep dirt and shit out of the connector. Once we get it up through, then we'll take the tape off and connect it to the whip and determine how much slack we're going to need. Yeah, there's a little tiny hole, access hole here, which is a little hard to get through. Could have probably fished some wire down through it, some baling wire or something. But we should be able to get in somehow. It's a little bit tight fit, but I'm fairly certain oh, we're on the wrong side. There we go. There we go. Coming up, hopefully. feeding up through the hole. Sort of. Now we've more fed into the hole. So I'll grab a piece of wire, make a hook, see if we can grab that wire. I know fishing wire uphill is not a great idea. Maybe what I'll do is fish a piece of wire down, which I should have done in the first place. We're just going to use some other electrical wire. Pull this back out. Do you ever look at a fish tape and say, oh, I'll never need that? Well, I think today, my friends, this is one of those days that I should have bought a fish tape. But hopefully we can get her down through that hole. No, I'm going to go look for something a little bit more rigid, and we will be back. Okay, we're back. I found some good old-fashioned baling wire and was able to fish that down through the hole, which is, well, what I should have done the first time. And we're just going to tape this to the baling wire carefully. And then pull the baling wire back up through. And there we go. So now we will untape this connector. And attach it to the light. Now again, these are keyed, so they will only go in one way. So you just basically line up the keys, keyway. Be great if I could see what I was doing. There we go, we're in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this whip and set it in the bed. And there, that will be an appropriate amount of slack for when I need to disconnect them. So now we're just going to rinse and repeat on the other side. Okay, so I did do a little bit of cable management on the whips themselves so that I could pull the controller in here. Not sure if you can see it very well or not, but I do have the controller zip tied to one of the battery cables, and the power feed is out here. The reason why I did the cable management is I didn't want to pull the controller in too far or end up with it outside the body of the vehicle. So that's a good spot there, relatively sheltered. So we do have the power wires coming out here. So now what I'm going to do is tape up these turn signal inputs that we're not going to be using and just tuck those out of the way. Just so that, you know, we don't ground anything out that we're not supposed to or anything like that. Maybe someday I will tie them into the turn signals, but today is not that day. So we'll rip that up, rip that off. So I'm just going to grab another zip tie here. And just zip tie this into a bundle that we're not going to use and just attach it right to these cables here. Just nice and harmless and out of the way. Like I say, you know, your cable management strategy may differ. I prefer using zip ties. There. Grab some snips and cut off that excess. Just had them here a minute ago. I swear, I do spend more time looking for tools that I just had than actually using them. There we are. And snip off that excess zip tie. There. And now we're going to pass our wire through from the front that we already started and get that to the rear and get them to meet in the middle and play nice together. So let's find the end of this roll. There we go. Follow the same path that the turn signal wires took. There we go. That should be coming out now. There it is. Double check to make sure we didn't pull it too tight in the front. No, definitely lots of slack there. Even pull it a little tighter. Just watching in the front here. Just don't forget, we still have to put the cup holders and whatnot back in. So I do want to be able to do some cable management here and zip tie these wires out of the way. I think we're good there. And our power wires are here. Right there. Grab the snips. Cut to length. Should have lots of wire there. And then we're going to make our final connection for that. So we'll just get some strippers. Da 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 da. No, not those kind of strippers. Can't afford that on this channel's budget. Budget of zero. Giro. There. Split these off. And we'll remember our color coding. Yellow was ground, green was power. Strip them a little long here. And then strip these ones. Oh, these ones have been tinned on the end, which is great. Twist them up. And we're going to grab a couple of heat shrink butt connectors. Which I just had a few minutes ago. A couple of these. And grab the crimper. Pop that in there. Give that a good crimp. Pop that in there. Give that one a good crimp as well. Oh, don't let it fall out. You can really start to tell that I'm old and it's getting long in the day. Because things at that point just don't start going that great. There. We're crimped on there. Now we'll come over here. Green into the power. And I just fucked a crimp. Connector. Oh no, we still got room in there. I'm gonna go a little old school here. So it was at this point that the microphone receiver connected to the camera decided to die. So we're going to mull our way through this with a voiceover. Can't remember exactly everything I said along through here, but what we're doing right now is finalizing our connections to the whip light controller from the dash feed switch. So right now I tried crimping it once with the crimper. Couldn't really get a good crimp on it, so I went old school and got out the side cutters and crimped it with that. So of course, you know, didn't bring all the tools with me that I needed, and ended up looking for my lighter again to heat shrink the heat shrinkable butt connectors. So we got the lighter, and just doing a bit of heat shrink on the first connection, which looks to be the power feed. And that's just about done. Got a good seal there on the ends. And we're going to move to the ground. Good way you can tell that you've got a good seal on it is when you see the color of the plastics insulation on the wire sort of melting into the heat shrink connector. So once we get those heat shrunk, like we do right now, we're going to tuck in the excess wire, clean it up later. So now the connections are made. All that's left to do is to go back into the cab and turn on the key, flip the switch, and see if we have whip lights. All right, we're going to turn on the key here. And key is on. Turn on the whip light switch. And we've got working whip lights. There's the power on self-test on the initial setup. So everything worked first try for those, which is absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to backup lights. There are kits available online, but I assembled my own, built it the way I wanted, and it actually turned out to be a lot cheaper. Now, one of the things that the Polaris Ranger does is it has a trigger for a backup beeper. Now, some folks will run their backup lights off of that. Not really designed to do it. because that is triggered by the ECU when the machine is put in reverse. So what we're going to do is use this relay harness already pre-made. There's the power feed for the backup lights. This will plug into the factory connector that triggers the reverse lights and then draw power from elsewhere. If you don't use a relay harness, what will happen is, number one, it'll put extra electrical load on your ECU. Number two is when you shift out of reverse, the backup lights can still glow dimly and even continue after your key is turned off. So by using the relay, it eliminates that feedback through. And picked up a couple of these backup lights off of Amazon. They were on like a Boxing Day sale, Boxing Week sale before Christmas. They came in over the holidays. The pair of these came in at like $23. And what we're going to use for mounts are these mounts that are going to bolt to the top hinge plate on the door. So we'll take out the two top hinge bolts and then mount that on and then rebolt it back in. And then the light pod will mount to that, and then we can aim it as we please. So let's get the two top hinge bolts out first, and then we'll do that on both sides. Then we'll put the lights on, run the wires up into the cab, bring our harness into play, and connect it all up. And that's going to be the last of the accessories we're going to install in this video. I did mention I want to get rid of this trunk and just mount my Rotopax fuel tank to the front of the box, which I'm going to do. So I did also get an under-seat storage for the rear, which will hold like my tire pump and some spare oil, plugs, things like that. And under the driver's seat storage, I'm going to condense my tools down into a tool bag, put them in there, and then I'll have my full bed space again. But those are pretty straightforward installations. The front armrest just straps in, and the under seat storage in the back seat it bolts in as well. So there's really nothing to show there. But this one here might be of interest to some folks. So let's dive in and get these brackets mounted. So the first step here is we're going to remove these two 1/2-inch head bolts that hold the door hinge on. We're going to leave the door closed for this so we don't mess up our door adjustment, and pull those out. And was not expecting that. Okay, so looks like there's a plastic shim, or plastic, or this is our nut capturing thing. And underneath the machine it went is our hinge. Okay, looks like we've retrieved all our parts and pieces. This is going to be a little interesting. So we'll put this one in here. Slide that back up into the door. Somehow get our backing plate back in. You'd think that would have been welded in, folks, but it was not. However, that was easy to start back in. Line these up again. Grab our impact driver. Make sure it's going the right way, and just tighten these down. And we are all about the ugga-duggas here. Give that lots of ugga-duggas. Then from there, we'll just grab a light pod and mount it. I've already added the mounting brackets to it beforehand. So, you know, just bored, looking for something to do. What you got to do is drop the bolt down in first and then attach the light pod to it. So hopefully we have a socket for this. Let's double check. That should be good. There. Drop that down into the bracket. Put the nut on. Looks like we're going to have to slide the light a little bit this way into the bracket because it just wants to hit the cab there. Or we want to slide it the other way. And these are fairly easy to adjust. There's just a couple of hex head screws on the back that you can just loosen and slide the bracket one way or another. But I think what is happening is the rib of the light is hitting on the bulge of the roll bar. So if we slide this in slightly, so if we slide that over, which will bring the light in, now we clear it. There, we still have access to our screws, but I do have them at a slight downward angle, so that should give us some good adjustment there. So let's grab our nut and our washer. And our impact gun. Start that on. Just kind of hold it straight back as much as I can. And give her all the ugga-duggas. There, we're sort of tilted slightly in, which is good. And then we'll rinse and repeat on the other side. Okay, so we got the lights mounted on both sides and everything's all tightened down. I've got them pointing down slightly, which is going to aim behind the tailgate. Now what we need to do is lengthen these wires, and I'm going to do that with some heat shrink butt connectors. So let's strip that off and strip that off. There. Twist these up. Crimp them on. There's one. There's two. And then we're going to peel back some of this insulation so that we can get the strippers on it. Yeah, because that doesn't really push back very well. So we're just going to make a little cut around like this. Pull that off. Oh, didn't quite cut right here. So I'm trying not to go too deep. There we go. Get out our strippers again. Now, these are fairly small gauge wire. So what I'll do is I'll strip it a little long. Twist it. Fold it over. And twist it again. So that way there, it will fit snug in the butt connector. Get the old piece of insulation out of there. Twist it up. Fold it over. Twist it again. Grab our two butt connectors. Again, I am going to use yellow for ground just to keep a consistent theme with what I've done all day. Get a crimp on this. There. Crimped in. Rinse and repeat. Make the wire a little longer to go into the connector. Fold it over a little less. There. That's in. It's a little tricky. Should have probably lengthened these wires beforehand. That would have been smart. Or solder and heat shrink would have been even smarter. Make sure that we are still in the connector before we make that final crimp. And give it a crimp. And we're in. So now what we'll do is we'll grab our Bic and heat shrink these. Just like we did everything else. Make a nice tight water resistant connection. There we go. So what we'll do is we're going to run these wires into the cab. So I'm going to undo that screw there, which is a Torx. Grab my Torx bit set. We're going to undo that screw just to give us a little room to get that into the cab. Then once we get it into the cab, we'll drop it back down. Just need to find the right Torx. There we go. And our Ugga Dugga. There. Set that in the bed for now. And this should give us enough wiggle room to get that up and into the cab, I have to get a plastic tool here and just pry on that just a touch. Just to open that up a touch so we can get that wire fed in there. Get in behind the seal and everything. There. Then what we'll do is add a wire to that on the other side. And then what we'll do is we'll lower the headliner inside the machine, bring them together, connect the two sides together, run a wire. There's a chase inside the door here, or not inside the door, on the roll cage. We'll open that up, run the wire down there, and then run it down to our relay harness once we get there. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with a different set of wire so that I don't have to do this twice at the same time. And once I get the other side done and the headliner dropped, I'll come back and show you what we'll do next. So we've got the two lights installed. I did have to tweak the brackets slightly because the lights were sitting a little cockeyed. It kind of drove me nuts. A little bit of compulsion there, perhaps. So what I did was I loosened the bolts on each side of the roof and ran the wires in, popped the headliner out a little bit, and ran the passenger side across in behind the headliner. The other one comes in, so now we have the two feeds from both wires. So what we'll do now is we'll join them both together and then drop that down into a single wire that'll go out to the relay. So what we'll do here is we'll open up this wire chase as well, get that in there. But for now, we're going to cut these two wires here. Give me some room to work with, of course. And again, we're going to use heat shrink butt connectors. Not my choice of connector, but it does the job. So there, we'll get this wire out of the way so we're not walking on it for the next 10 minutes. We will grab strippers, crimper, knife, and Bic. Back. Oh, really? Where the hell am I going to go? So we're going to split these. Split these. There. There we go. So now, park my ass in the seat. Before I do that, we'll get some heat shrink connectors. We'll strip off and join together our two grounds. Don't want to strip that much. That. And that. Then once we run the wire, I can either zip tie this junction here or just bury it in the wire chase, or a bit of both. There, strip and strip. Twist them together. Again, not my connector of choice, but when you're working with limited stock on Boxing Day and do not have time to wait for Amazon to deliver some really good connectors, you gotta do what you gotta do. There, and there. Crimp it. There. Give it another little crimp just for shits and giggles. Now we'll go and grab our other wire that we're going to use to run this all the rest of the way. And join that in there as well. So we'll take our knife, split them off again. Give them a strip. Put this in here. I'll strip that way too long. Perfect. Fold it over for extra contact in the connector. Same with this one. Actually, that one's not too bad. There. Get our crimp tool. Make sure our wire's still in there. And just give it a squeeze. Again, not my favorite crimp tool either. But it's what we got. So we're going to make it work. There. That wire's in. Give that a crimp. There. And we'll hop back in here. If you want to watch an old fat guy get in backwards into the back seat of a Polaris Ranger, this is your channel. So we'll heat shrink these up. Try not to blow on the lighter. There we go. There. Too much. It's perfect. Now, I'll just get the tension off of this. I'd already started opening this up the other day when I was planning things out. So we'll just zip this open. Again, that limit strap is putting a bunch of pressure on there. There. Get this run down behind the limit strap. Actually, I'm going to pull the headliner back and tuck these junctions in here. And then we'll zip tie that. Let's grab one of those. My whole objective here is to make it look as if I didn't even touch it. Get our zip tie in here and situated where we want it. Up there should be fine. There. Cut off the extra. Then open this wire chase up again. Pop that in there, like so. Get in there to your new home, little feller. There. And just snap it back closed. So now there's wires running here. That I could just poke it through there, but again, the whole idea is to make it look like we weren't even here. So I might have to poke a hole somewhere. But what we're going to do, move our tools here. Lift up this back seat, pull it out. Maybe. We can just leave that there. Go around the, we can reach that from here. So, sorry about that, people. Our battery tray is all exposed there. Just give you another look. Right there. There's our battery tray. So what I'm going to do is tuck this wire up in under this firewall insulation here and behind the seat belt. Again, leaving myself lots of wire. There, that clipped into something there. I'll run that down behind the back seat. And now find a little path for this feller to go into its new home, which I think what we'll do is just pop it into there. Go around the other side. Sorry about bumping the tripod, folks. It's been a long day. So we'll take this wire here, feed that out into the engine compartment. back around here. And I think what we're going to do is just tuck this under that storage, flip the seat down on top of it, lock the seat into place. There. Then we'll get our center storage. Shove all this wire down in here. So we're eventually going to pull it through under the bed. This goes on the battery side. Now the people won't know we were here. So I've reached in and pulled the wire through from where we passed it into the engine compartment. So now what we'll do is we'll get ready to mount our harness. This is pretty simple. A lot of what I've seen online is folks will mount the relay right here on the firewall with a self-driller. And we'll ground it out here. We'll remove that nut. See if that's big enough to fit. It is. This will go to our reverse light trigger. And this is going to go to our power feed, which I could probably pull inside to the battery compartment and zip tie that where I've zip tied the whip light control module. So let's do that here first. Let's get the relay mounted, and I'll go find a self tapper and start with that. Okay, so I found a self tapper and I'm just going to put it through the relay here and mount it right to the firewall here. Lots of ugga-duggas. Now, instead of undoing this bolt, let's check to see if our ground wire, yeah, it will reach one of these bolts here on the side. So I'm just going to grab a 3/8 socket, it looks like. And undo one of these bolts that hold that bracket that a lot of people ground on. Being ground is ground. Oh, it's a 10. Thankfully, I still own some 10mm sockets. Those are the ones that like to go bye-bye. Taking a look in the tickle trunk here. Oh, if I was a 10mm socket, I should be here somewhere. I know I own one. Probably too many, and there we go. I'm back. Again, where the hell am I going to go? Kind of running the show here today, right? So we're just going to pull this bolt out. Beautiful. Run that through our grounding lug. And just pop that right back in. Just like that, we have a ground. Now, what we'll also need to do, this is our connector to our power feed. We don't want that right now. And again, cable management's going to happen under here after this video is done. So way back here is a plug with a dummy cover over it. That is the reverse light trigger that we are going to plug this connector into until it clicks. And stupid me, should have ran this under here. There. Grab that plug again. And we will plug right back in. Now we can do a little bit of cable management. We get a couple of zip ties here. And find our cutters. So we're grabbing our turn signal harness, our whip light, and our reverse trigger. And we're going to zip tie it to this factory loom here. Get everything together nice and neat. There. And cut off the excess. Do the same thing here. This is our power trigger. We're going to pull that back into the cab. Find a spot for that under the seat in the battery storage compartment. So we'll get this out of the picture for now. We'll just flip you out of the way here. And zip tie all you people together. There. Cut off that excess. This looks decent. Now, let's find a spot to route this into the cab. We're going to zip tie this down as well. Are we? Or are we not? No, I've already had the bed down. That does not touch. So, let's find a way to get you back into by the battery where you are going to live. There. All right. Now we're going to go inside and make our final connection and do a test. Okay, we're back inside our rig here. I can see where I fed this through. I'm going to pull back out through the wire. Power wire I sent into the engine bay. that. And if I can find my cutters, again, spend more time looking for tools than using the tools. Already one pair of cutters down today. There they are on top of the tire. So we're going to cut a length of this off. Do a little split to separate the two. Try not to cut the seat while we're at it. Would be would be nice. There. Now we'll just pull this connector apart. Maybe. Let's leave it be. So we're going to strip everybody back. Just like so. Now we'll grab a couple of heat shrink splicers. And make our final two connections of the day. I have no idea how long this video is going to be, because of course I'm not filming everything in real time. I'm just filming as something different happens. Skipping a lot of the rinse and repeats. So we'll get these together here. Do a crimp there. And same thing again. Get that in. Position it in the crimper. Oh, not pop out the wire. Pops out, just stick it back in. That's what she said. There's one. Last call for alcohol right here. Just good, because I let the fire go out in the garage about 2 hours ago. And she's starting to get a little chilly out here. There. Now we're just going to heat shrink these together. Or heat shrink these up. Get them water resistant. Can tell my lighter's starting to get low on fluid. It is an old one. Get this one shrunk. There. Now, believe we'll zip tie the bundle up. If I had a zip tie. Let's get a couple of those. Let's make our bundle of excess wiring. Like so. Wrap that around. There. And then we're going to zip tie to this cable right here. And once again, we'll cut off the excess. Pick up our tools. Pop in our storage tray. Bump goes over the battery, Dan. There. Flip the seat down and everything is connected. So now we'll go out back and hit the key, put it in reverse, and see if we have light. Okay, so we're ready to do our final electrical test of the day. So we are going to turn the key on, shift into reverse. And what do you know? We have backup lights. It's one of the things I did notice driving around in this thing was when I was backing up, it was really hard to see at night. So that will take care of that problem. Excellent. Love it when everything works like it should. All right, it's been a long day. Time for a little bit of a walk around. So we got our WD Electronics turn signals installed with hazards and a horn. And we got our 4-foot LED whips installed and working. We couldn't get the license plate to work because our license plates are a different size. 4-way flashers are working. And some, oh my God, I just looked into the face of the sun, backup lights. So there, everything is installed and working first time. Well, folks, that's going to do it for this episode of Dusty Trails and Drone Tales. A little bit of a different episode for you today, spending the day out in the garage, adding some turn signals, some whip lights and some backup lights to the Ranger. So we're glad to be back off hiatus. Hopefully the next video we do will be a trip out for you with some action again. But hopefully you found this video informative today. Then again, also don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and share the video if you found it informative. And as always, may your trails always be dusty, or this time of year a little bit snowy. Groomed is nice, and keep your drones airborne and everything else rubber side down. So until the next time, folks, have a good day. Thanks for watching.